Come, make your way through the oaken door. You know where it is. We all know if we just stop and listen. Can you hear it? The creaking of the oaken door to the world of the fairies. The fairies are playing. Well, the fairies are always playing, yes. But tonight they're having a party and everyone is invited. Even you. The pixies are playing the music. Every instrument is being twanged and thwanged, picked and plucked, up high, down low, so that the fairies can dance and swirl and twirl all night. Tico, Luna, Peepo and Kenya are all there. They're singing for you. Can you hear them? There's so much delicious food to eat. Tiny acorn cups filled with the sweetest of honey mead. Primrose flowers, eaten petal by petal to make the soul ease. Even Arcania, queen of the fairies, is there. But she's not revelling like everybody else. She is watching the above world. She is watching the wood, the forest. Because tonight is the night of the initiatory riders. Tonight is the night that a group of men will ride through the forest on horseback and become men. They will claim their malehood, their masculinity, their red this night. And she watches as they stampede, as they gallop, as with their fire they charge through the wood. And she watches as one falls, drops from his horse, rolls crashing, banging bone over bone, breaking, slicing blood. She can't help noticing as the shallow breath begins to leave his body that he is delicious. And I don't know if he would have found his way there without her persuasive magic. But he seems, half ghost, half man, to be heading towards the door of Fairy World. And as he stumbles in, she lures him to her chamber and lays him down. She calls Nene for comfrey. Come, she says, make me a poultice for this man, his bones are broken. She calls Meme. Sweet one, she says, make me some rose oil that I can anoint his temples so that he can be filled with enough sweetness to know that his life is worth living. Slowly, with the magic of the fairies and the herbs of the forest, she brings life back. And when blood has returned to every part of his body, she did not open the door willingly. She kept him for herself. Of course you're free to go, she said, whenever you please. But know that if you wander too far from the realm of the fairies, Garandaran will close his door to you forever. Tamlin, for that is what the fairies called this man, Tamlin, ran and played in Fairy World. He was delighted to be welcomed into such a delicious place. They even taught him to fly and he would wander up to the stars on his graceful wings and marvel at the exquisite beauty of it all. And then he would dream his way down, back to the slumber and perfection of the world of the fairies. After a while, he began to miss the smell, the scent, the earth of home. And so he would indeed walk through the door of the world, out into his realm, and around the forest that surrounded the realm of the fairies, always coming back, but wandering further and further each day. This wood was owned by a woman, old in soul and old in bone. And this night she lay dying, with her sweet daughter Janet holding her hand. She looked at her daughter and remembered the moment that she birthed her, held her for the first time in her arms. She thought of all the things she wanted to teach her and how little time she had left. She thought of all the herbs of the woods and how each one had a use. She wanted to tell her that her life was worth so much. She wanted to tell her that when she looked up at the stars and thought, wow, the stars were really looking down at her with the same sentiment, because she was loved by earth and sky. She wanted to tell her so much. She wanted to tell her that her heart was her guide, and her womb her mandala, and that these were the things to listen deeply to before she ever listened outside of herself. She looked at her daughter, deep, deep into Janet's eyes, and she could see that she had taught her well enough already. So with weak and tired hands, she reached up to her head and pulled out a comb which her mother had given her. And with tender grace, she combed her daughter's hair for the last time and slid the comb at the side of her head, smiling. After Janet's mother died, the woods belonged to Janet, and she would walk there in the winter. She scattered her mother's ashes there and watched as they settled into the earth. She looked up, oak and ash, beech and hazel, yew and aspen, and she knew that one day her mother would be part of all of these woods through the roots of these trees. Tamlin saw her, was stunned by her beauty and her sadness. But as the winter branches of the trees stood naked around them, he did not approach her. In the springtime, Janet walked the woods, and she could feel her mother in every unfolding leaf. She could feel her in the ransoms and the snowdrops that were pushing up through the earth. Although her heart was still grieving, she was surrounded by love, and it made her smile. Tamlin saw her smiling. The smile almost broke his heart open. But he did not approach. Not until the summer, until the roses had unfolded and unfolded and unfolded and unfolded, did he approach. Did he dare to come close? Janet was bending down, admiring a double rose, two roses that span around and around and around and around each other in a dance that looked like it would spiral through ancient times and forwards to the future, to infinity. Tamlin reached out, said, "You must not pick this rose." Janet looked at him with fierce eyes. "This is my wood," she warned. "I will do as I please." Their fingers touched, and they began to spin together, eyes locking, around and around and around like a double rose they span, through time, through space. And then he was gone. She was alone, opened, vulnerable, cross. She picked herself up from the floor of the woods and she began to walk home. But she felt sick. She was so tired. She felt grumpy, hurt, rejected. But the sickness was new. The sickness, dizzy. Something was stirring inside her. Something was moving. She could feel it. Something was waking up. There was a child growing inside her. She went back to the woods. She went to pick the herb that she needed, for she did not want to have the child of the man who ran away. And as she went to pick the herb, up sprang Tamlin. He looked at her immediately. "You're going to have my child." "No," she said. "I'll not have a child with you. You have run away, back to fairyland, back to that queen of yours." He grabbed her hand and he said, "I'm under a spell. And there is one night, Janet, one night in the whole year that this spell can be broken, and it is tonight. For tonight it is Samhain, and we all will process through the woods. Arcania on Taranoth, her unicorn, at the front, and myself on my beauty horse at the back. And if you pull me off my horse, Janet, as I ride past, and you hold me in your arms all night, Janet, please, I promise you, if you do this, I will be your man. I will be your baby's father." Janet wasn't sure, but she did go to the woods that night, and she did wait. The moon was full, so round and so bright and so pure that she felt infected by magic from the moment she stepped into those woods. Just as she was closing her eyes as if to sleep, Arcania appeared. She was magnificent, beautiful, huge. Her wings reached up to the stars, and she rode through on a unicorn that had a horn that pointed through all illusion. There were more riders, fairies, elves, pixies. She couldn't tell which from another, but at the back there was a horse, a brown horse, and she could see Tamlin on the back. She grabbed him, and she held him, and she held him tight. But he roared, and he scratched, and he turned into a lion in front of her eyes, and he tried to scratch and claw at her, but still she held on tight. And he turned into a newt, slippery and sliding, and she couldn't hold on, and she couldn't hold on, but she held on tight. And he turned into a snake, curving and curling his way around her, around and around and around, until she could hardly breathe, and she held on, and she held on, and she held on. And he turned into a baby, an innocent, naked baby. And she held the baby, but it was heavy, heavier than she had expected. She grew tired. Gradually, her eyelids drooped, her shoulders sagged, and she lay down on the forest floor, letting go of the babe in her arms. Janet slept soundly as the baby next to her fought his way to boyhood, into the becoming of man, from man to knight. And in the morning, lying next to her, was Tamlin, the knight and father he had promised he would be. They held hands, their lips touched, but they heard something behind them. It was Arcania, huge and beautiful. Tamlin was frightened. She smiled. She said, "Tamlin, you were never under a spell. I give you both my blessing, and our oaken door will always be open to you." Janet took the comb from her hair that her mother had given her and threw it towards Arcania. As she threw it, stars and flowers appeared around all of them. "You have some magic of your own, I see," smiled Arcania. "Blessing on your child's life." And off Arcania rode. Tamlin and Janet walked through the woods, tenderly, carefully, lovingly, walking into the beginning of their new life.